Craig, you want to chime in on is being on time the most important thing in hitting?
It's definitely one of the most important things, to be a successful hitter. Um, Being on time allows you to do a lot of things. It allows you to get good swing path. It allows you to make solid contact with the most force available to you. Um, it's up there. I wouldn't say it's the most important thing. It's probably the most, like Alex was saying, the most valuable thing, because I think it's the hardest thing to be consistent at. Because you can be super consistent with your body movements once you learn how to be successful with those. If you're really in tune with your body, you can really replicate those movements. But just like Kelix was saying, the pitcher's job is to disrupt your timing. Like that's part of the equation of being a pitcher is, can I get this guy off balance? If they weren't worried about that, they would just throw fastballs, but that's their job. That's how they make their money. That's how they get guys out. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely a key. And what Kaylee said was spot on. And I think it's great, and kids don't use it enough. And I don't know if it's just because guys don't watch enough baseball on TV, but sit there and like I call it dancing with the pitcher. So like get a bat, get in your living room, get in front of the TV, and Jacob DeGrom's on the mound or Clayton Kershaw's on the mound. Like, get your load and get like into it. And I think you got to have a little bit of an imagination, and especially now during these times when you can't go to the park or you can't go to your cage and hit. It's time to use that imagination and picture yourself, at Citi Field facing Jacob DeGrom, and go on YouTube and find a video and throw it up on your TV and sit there and get your reps in, because those are things that can get you better.
Irby?
I got to get used to that mute button. Alex, you want to chime in? Is being on time the most important thing in hitting, and just your thoughts and feedback on that?
I don't think it's the most, but I think of like my top three. I think if you're on time and swing at a good pitch and you're always in a balanced, neutral position, I think you'll always hit. I think until you get maybe to AA or AAA, if you do those three things, you'll hit and have success. I think of those three things, timing is the hardest thing to teach. So I guess for this thing, it might be the most important thing, because it's the hardest thing to coach. It's the hardest thing to teach. We honestly have no clue like how each guy's going to time a pitcher. Like the way Calix moves and the way he sees the ball is different than how I see the ball. So teaching myself how to time the ball like Calix may not work for me, which may not work for Craig, but it may work for Joel. And just the ability to kind of time the baseball, I think people have, and you can get better. I think we have a guy in Kiner Falefa. This guy would stand there. He had this huge bat move, massive leg kick, and he's constantly on time. Like, you can't teach that. I mean, not many people can just do that. So I think it is probably the most important thing to teach and try to learn how you as a hitter time the baseball.
If you don't mind me, I want to add something on top of it. I want to make sure I was clear. So I definitely say it's valuable. Obviously, it depends on the person and what they're what they're good at or what they're deficient in. But I also think that timing is also how well the person takes their eyes to a particular spot, so that they can get themselves good visual feedback as well. So timing, the way that most people think of timing isn't just the way that I think of it, quite honestly. I think of timing in terms of, does the person have the ability to not get distracted with their eyes and take their eyes to the proper release point? And that's one small element of timing. The other element of timing is getting in sync with the pitcher's arm. The other element of timing is getting your foot back down on the ground if you make an accurate decision. So I would say it's the most valuable in the sense that it's a large grouping of what timing really encompasses. But there's obviously other things within the hitting scope that is just as valuable as it, right? But I think there's a large spectrum of what timing really is. So.
Awesome. What are your guys' thoughts on staying through the ball? This next question from Ben Bridges asks, what is the best stay through the ball training method? If you guys want to chime in on that.
Bergie, go ahead. Lead this one up, Bergie.
I think just like an easy one is hit 3 baseballs. So like basically you just tee up 3 different baseballs right in a row, maybe on like a slight uphill path. And then you just take your swing and try to hit every single baseball. Basically, the first one will go just off right center, second one will be right through center, and third one will be just left of center if you do it perfect. And then I think as you kind of do it more and more and more, as you get on to flips or front toss and into BP, as you start to see like how long does your chest stay square as you work through your path, and how long does your bat actually travel towards center field before you rotate off the ball. I think those are huge drills that can keep you through the ball for a long time.
Yeah, so I would jump in and just to piggyback off of Bergie, I would say doing some form of a rear arm drill where you get a connection ball, you put it into your back arm, and you really focus on as you're taking that back elbow and you're getting it into the slot and you're releasing it. How does the direction of the ball relate to your path, right? Like guys that don't do a great job of releasing through the pitch path, and where the barrel releases slightly underneath their hands, and then as Bergie's talking about, the head of the barrel chases through center field, giving you the ability to stay on multiple type of pitch profiles, but also change of speed. If you're a little bit out in front of a slider and you have a good bat path, that's a function of timing as well. And so I would say get some type of a connection ball and really try to, like I was saying, get the elbow past the middle of the body, and as the barrel releases through, does the ball follow that same direction that you're working through? And then also one small variation I like using it a lot with guys is something as simple as a frisbee, with getting a frisbee and really seeing what type of feedback, visual feedback and field feedback you're getting as that frisbee is coming through the zone. Do you create a nice 45-degree angle as that frisbee is going out towards the center of the cage? Is a really nice tool. And then obviously you guys have seen for many years people utilizing the dog chuck it toy, putting a tennis ball inside of it, and then really holding on to the angles necessary. And as you release, does the tennis ball release it in an angle where it goes to the middle of the field, or do you cast it really early, which obviously is going to affect your ability to create that good, efficient bat path and give you different timing variations within some mistakes that you're going to make, right? Like so.
Craig, if you want to jump in, just what you think is the best, in your opinion, the best stay through the ball training method, and what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, so the chuck it stick is something that's really great to use, just because it's lightweight, low resistance. You can really get a good feel for it. Any type of one-handed drills, and a lot of guys listening out there maybe they don't have access to like a one-hand bat, and I don't really encourage a lot of younger guys to like choke up on the bat and do one-hand drills, because I think it can create some kinds of bad movements to the baseball, and they don't get the good feedback because maybe the bat's too heavy, maybe they're holding it down too low, and they start creating like bad movements for themselves. So what I recommend to a lot of guys is get a tennis racket and get tennis balls. And that's another good feedback driven drill where, if I take my bottom hand as a lefty hitter and I want to drive through a tennis ball, like I should be able to drive it through the back of the cage. Now, if there's tilt one way or the other, or tilt down, tilt up, then I can start to understand my hand path to where maybe at that point of contact, I'm coming off the baseball, or I'm not getting to like a good connection point.
So one thing that stood out to me when you guys were talking about this, do you think that the inability to hit the ball the opposite way has anything to do with a hitter's struggle to stay through the ball? And what are your thoughts on that?
I'll take this one.
Yeah, go
Oh,
ahead. Go ahead.
I think it's all pitch dependent, right? Like it's all. I mean, hitting such a crazy thing, right? With all these variables. I think now with a lot of this launch angle and like people obsessed with power, you see a lot less direction because people are all quick and spinny trying to get pull side bombs. And so you do see like a lack of direction kind of from a younger group coming up through the minor leagues and even in amateur baseball from what I've seen and worked with. So I think, guys that really utilize direction, I think you look at like Mike Trout, JD Martinez, like those are the two best hitters in the game right now, in my opinion, especially from the right side. Most of their power is right center and most of their direction is all right center. As you watch them pull, it's kind of a natural pull that they just seem to catch balls out front and then they go. Everything seems to be working. When you look like this is center, they're working to the right side of that batter's eye and they're really working through that, keeping that good direction. But I think the obsession with power has definitely lost a lot of people to this direction.
So there's no question to piggyback on Bergie. So when a hitter starts to get this idea that hitting is just rotation, what ends up happening is they overemphasize a quick turn. And though I believe that turn is important, the problem is if they get stuck in their turn with their path at the same exact time, they're going to lose their inability to cover pitches that are moving in the opposite direction of their bat path, right? And so we like to talk about making sure that at the onset of the swing that we're staying as square as we possibly can until we finish or complete rotation, which is going to allow us to have good path entries from the back of the plate, or when I say back, but from the outside corner of the plate to the middle of the plate to the pull side of the plate. So guys that tend to just get very rotational with upper bodies, they tend to lack direction. So right on what Bergie's saying. I think the obsession with power and with the Rangers, we know that getting the ball in the air is valuable, but there's a right and a wrong way to get the ball in the air. And so, yeah, I think that's part of the challenge as to why some people have a hard time hitting the ball the other way. A little bit too much rotation, and they lose their good path entries.
Craig, did you want to jump in?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with all of that. I mean, it's a big rotational issue, and I think young guys sometimes don't quite understand the direction when we say pull on the field. They first thing that flies is that front shoulder, the rotation goes, front hip flies, everything, because in their mind pull is that way, instead of thinking about direction towards the pitcher and contact point. With let's say like if I'm trying to pull a ball with force, like I want my hands to clear, and I want to concentrate on getting that top hand strong in a good direction. And then now I have my backside to yank through the baseball that creates that power. But if my backside and if my front side pulls and I lose my backside right out the gate, now it's just all arms, and that's when you get the weak rollovers. Or if they do get the inside pitch they're looking for, you're hitting it into the dugout because it's an arm extension wraparound instead of a forceful move to the baseball.
And again, that doesn't mean that rotation isn't in the swing. We know that when you're swinging anything, golf, baseball, rotation is one component, obviously, of the swing that allows you to create some force coupling, right? The change of direction to get the bat in line with the path of the ball. I think again, there's a right and a wrong way to go about getting the bat into the line of the pitch. It's particularly, yes, when you try to elevate the ball a little bit too much to the pull side. Catch it in the right spot with good clean entry where the barrel releases underneath your hands, and you catch it at the right contact point, and the ball's going to do what it needs to do.
All right, so let's kind of shift gears a little bit here. We've been talking about approach and some physical things. Let's move over. We got actually a handful of questions about the mental side of the game. So I kind of just put it all into one topic. Just dealing with your mental approach, how to keep your head clear, but specifically, what's the best way to get over a bad at bat?
I'll take that one if you don't mind. So I think when a hitter understands that we learn more in the face of adversity, I think there's a lot of low hanging fruit out there with that idea. Obviously, when you're younger, it's extremely challenging to to cope with that, to deal with that. But we know that the people who have the ability to focus both in a micro and a macro manner, meaning small to big stuff, they focus more on the processes rather than the outcome. They tend to do a much better job from a longevity standpoint and a consistency standpoint. So I would say to a player who is struggling with failure, I would say to you, you're going to learn more in your failures, and it speaks more about you as a person than when you're doing well. I know personally, I am so grateful for the tough upbringing that I had growing up, because it meant that I was more equipped than most to deal with adversity. And that translated directly into the game of baseball, knowing that we fail way more often than we have success. And so I was able to put that in context. I wasn't always great at it, but I definitely had a little bit more arsenal than most relating to that. And at the end of the day, if you want to be a Major League Baseball player, and I think most kids have that goal, you know, I'm not going to knock anyone's dreams. It can be unrealistic at times for some people, but I think it's a good dream to shoot for. But if you're going to want to play on TV one day and you want to face the best in the world, you're going to have to develop a good strategy around failure. Because unfortunately, the days of, even in high school, of having the 500 averages is just no longer realistic. And with the type of pitch arsenals that players have at the top level in baseball, being the MLB, you would be you're gonna have a tough life if you're having a hard time dealing with failure. So I would say to you, use a journal. Carry a journal in two forms, to be able to write down some of your previous failures that you might have had against someone, and then develop new strategies around how you can become successful. And then secondly, as a part of that journal, have a gratitude portion of it, where you're just so grateful for the opportunities to be playing a game of baseball, a game that is great, a game that is meaningful to many people watching it, and it's something that you should just kind of write down some of your thoughts and just appreciate what you have in front of you. So sorry for the long.
That's okay, Craig. You want to touch on mental approach and your thoughts on the best way to get over a bad at bat?
Yeah, I think understanding that failure is a part of this game, and it's a large majority of what you're gonna do if you play this game for a long time. I think I went back after I retired and looked at like the whole stat line and added it up. And basically I played, out of 13 seasons of playing minor league baseball, I struck out for 2 full seasons in playing. So like, I could have played 2 seasons and struck out every single time, and that would have been my career. So I think if you understand that and really work, and it's hard, it's probably the hardest part of playing a game that we work so hard. We go to the field, we take BP, we practice, and then we play a game, and everything can be going right in practice, and we can be feeling on top of the world or feeling like we got it figured out. And in the game, we turn around and go 0 for 4 with 4 punch outs. Like, that is the hardest mental grind ever. And like, the ability to embrace that difficult time and want to learn from it is what makes a player, like Calix was saying, be able to play on TV. Like, those guys that play at the big league level, like, they're not at a high school field or a college field, like playing in front of 100, 1,000 people. Like, they're on TV, they're playing in front of 30, 40, 50,000 people every night. And like, every at bat matters for those guys. So I think being able to embrace that and learn from it, get a journal, write stuff down. Like, game plan. So if you can't game plan at bat, try to game plan game to game. Like start there. If you're a young guy, high school guy, college guy, like after the game, go down, be real with yourself. That's another hard thing for anyone to do, but baseball players too. Like be real with yourself, sit down, write out your at bats, write what you were thinking, write what you were feeling, write how, like why you swung at that slider in the dirt, why you chased the 3-2 changeup when your mentality should have been totally different because the guy behind you was 0 for 4 too. Like think about all those things and then work to go at bat by at bat. And once you can get at bat by at bat, and then if you can get really good, and I would say probably some of the elite hitters in the major leagues are pitch by pitch. Like they can swing at a pitch and within a second evaluate what they were thinking, why they did it, and shut it down mentally, get past it. Being able to flush that kind of stuff out of your mind is an unbelievable skill, and you can't just do it by saying I want to do it. It has to be a practice, and there's going to be a learning curve. And then I would say for the young guys, because I know we do have a lot of young guys that follow us at Prospect Dugout. So if you're 12 and under, and that's your question, like you need to have your parents email us because we need to call your parents because it's your parents putting pressure on you. And that shouldn't happen at 12, 10, 8 years old. You should be out having fun, enjoying yourself. Yes, we all want to succeed, but enjoy playing the game of baseball. And probably if you're 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, you're probably going 2 for 4 every day. And if your parents are jumping you because you're 2 for 4, not 4 for 4, then we need to have a conversation with your parents.
Alex, what are your thoughts on the mental approach and how do you bounce back, after a bad at bat, and also touch a little bit. Calix and Craig touched on journaling, so if you don't mind touching on that a little bit as well.
Journaling was huge for me. I think it was something I used basically early in my career and then throughout. I think early in our minor league careers, like video wasn't available. It was just kind of like, oh, do you remember that guy? Yeah, I feel like his fastball jump, whatever. And so we would have to jot notes down, especially in the minor leagues. Like you play in the Texas League or the Southern League, some of these AA leagues, like Texas League only has eight teams. So you're playing the same 3 teams constantly over and over and over. So you get a pretty good journal. They get to know you, you get to know them. So you can kind of figure out some tendencies. Same thing in your high school league. I think about like when I was playing in high school, by the time I was a senior, I probably had 150 at bats off the rival high school because we've been playing against each other since we were 8 years old. So like I knew what he was going to try to do to get me out, and then he knew what I was going to try to do, and so you got to play a little cat and mouse there. And then I got out a lot. The reason I'm coaching at 32 years old is because I wasn't a very good player, but I got it. I understood a lot of things. So when I got out, I had a 10-second period. So basically I allowed myself 10 seconds to freak out. Not openly, like I wasn't screaming, I wasn't slamming my helmet, I wasn't doing anything like that, but it was just kind of like I gave myself 10 seconds up here to be mad. After the 10 seconds, was like, you got to flush it because right now I got to go play defense. I got to figure out a way. Like if I just punched out, like, or somebody made a play on me, like I'm going to take that hit away from somebody else. Whereas a catcher, like I had to focus on the guy on the mound, like how to get him through another inning or how to get the next guy through another inning. So I allowed myself basically 10 seconds to be mad, freak out, do whatever. And then it was like, all right, next thing. And then I had a little checklist of like, was I on time? Did I swing at the right pitch? And was I in a good balanced position? So if I said yes to all 3 of those things, like I washed it, like round ball, round bat, like baseball is really hard. I think people always talk about hitting 300. Like I think last year in the big leagues, 12 people hit 300. I think when you really think about that, like I think it was in the AL, like 12 or 13 people hit 300. So it just doesn't happen that often. So you think about like the average major league hitter hits 250, like 25 out of 100 times you get a hit. Like it's ridiculously hard to get hits now. And if you're living and dying on every single at bat and every single out, like the game's too hard. Like when you start playing, these guys are playing 162 games, they're getting 600 at bats. Like you're getting out so many times that if you're living and dying with each one, like first of all, it's going to drive you crazy. Like you're going to have ulcers. It's just not a healthy thing. Try to take success out of every single at bat that you do. Like during every single at bat, you have to have done at least one thing right. And if you didn't, watch that at bat because it's so terrible that it doesn't matter. And that shouldn't even affect the radar or the scope of what you're doing. And you should just allow yourself, okay, what did I do good? Sweet, build on that for the next AB.
Yeah, I think Alex, some people in the psychology world talk about having like a bounce back strategy or a little bit of a grace period. I know some people like Derek Jeter, I remember, I might be wrong with it, but at least it looked that way after he committed an error. I know we're talking about hitting, but after he committed an error, it seemed like he would pick up some dirt sometimes and he would throw it off to the side as his way to kind of like say, I'm over with this. And Evan Longoria used to utilize focal points. I remember him watching the foul pole in between pitches. I would assume that he had some focal point that he would use post at bat if he didn't have a good at bat that can help him kind of move on from it. So yeah, focal points and then some bounce back strategies or some snapback plans is some good tools to utilize.
I also had a full breathing routine. Like I would go through, and Craig probably remembers just sitting there watching me because it's weird. But like there's like I would hold the bat, take a deep breath in for 4 seconds, hold it for 1, breathe out for 5, and just try to relax. And then in between pitches, especially a bad pitch, if I swung at something stupid, I would shorten it and go like in for 2, hold for 1, out for 3, maybe even 5 if I had time. But just to kind of reset, and like my focal point was like the name on my bat. So like I would look at it and go like, you are good enough. Like you deserve to be on this field. You deserve to be in this box. And, maybe you don't have your name on your bat, but like, you have something on your bat that's there that you can focus on right now. And like, it can bring you back to a present time. And, I have a psych degree and it's something that I think helped carry me through 10 years in the minor leagues. I think if I didn't have that background, if I didn't have some of these approaches, my career would have been over in 2 or 3 years, maybe.
Well, guys, as we get closer to 9 o'clock, I just want to kind of wind things down. We're still going to talk for just a second, but just wanted to thank you guys, Calix and Alex and Craig, as usual. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. We hope that everyone that has watched this has learned something from it, some takeaways, some notes, anything that can motivate you and help you to focus just a little bit harder or tweak something or just put in that little bit extra work to help you get yourself to the next level. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, TikTok. Subscribe to our podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Definitely be super grateful if you guys left us a review or a rating on the App Store or the podcast review. That would be great. Before we go, Calix, Alex, and Craig, why don't we do this for everybody that's watching, whether it's a parent, a coach, a player in high school, an amateur player, or somebody that's in college looking to mentally get past this crazy year and look towards what's coming next and what's coming next year. Why don't you guys just give me maybe a minute or two each, just something to leave with the audience that they can work on this week while they're home in quarantine, while they're working to get back out on the playing field. Calix, why don't you go ahead and start with that, and then we'll go to Alex, and then Craig, you can close it out.
All right, I'll do the honors. So I know I would challenge you all out there to really utilize this time that we have at home to think about kind of like what's happened in your life already, how grateful you can be for the positive moments that you've had in your life, and as a group collectively, as a society, as a nation, how can we use this time to continue to be grateful, even though it seems like it's a bleak and challenging time. I know personally, when this is done, I want to share my post 5-year pandemic story as to how I got better during this time. I would challenge you guys to grab a book, read a book. It doesn't have to be a sports book, but I would encourage you to find maybe a Derek Jeter book, Muhammad Ali book, some book that can help you go back in history and hear some of the personal stories and challenges that certain people have overcome, and let it motivate you. So I would say, I would encourage you guys to also write down some goals for yourselves right now. This is a great time to do a reset. Maybe some of you guys were at a challenging place in your amateur. I won't call it careers because I don't think that's the right word to use, but your amateur experience. Um, and you don't have to play right now. So there actually is less stress in terms of having to perform up to a standard that you might have been putting onto yourself. So you can sit down and you can kind of reset and say, when we start back up with baseball again, these are the 3 to 5 steps, or the 3 to 5 goals that I have for myself, that I can either I can measure myself. Might be one. I might be able to write a new attainable goal. I might be able to set a new process goal, something that I would have never have imagined that I would be doing, given the fact that I didn't really have time, right? Like, we have time right now to sit down and really peel back the layers of our own onion, or peel back and look into our hearts and say, you know what, like, yes, I can do this. This is a great opportunity for me to do X, Y, Z. So I would just challenge you guys, I mean, just to recap, find a book, set some new goals, read something that is meaningful, that someone previously before us have done, that we can learn from, and it can give us an opportunity to improve. So
Thanks, Calix. Alex, you want to go ahead and thanks.
Yeah. I think, like Calix said, like right now, the biggest thing everybody should be doing is that life is bigger than baseball. Life is, more important. There's more important things than baseball right now. I know, especially coming from a person who was like a baseball junkie, it's hard, but being able to step back and go like, look, this game has been taken away from you by something that's completely out of control. You didn't get fired. You didn't get, released. You didn't get, hurt, nothing. Like, this game has just been taken away from you by something greater than all of us. And it sucks. But being able to like take a step back, understand that like baseball is a gift, and try to find your love for that. Find your love for baseball, find your love for your family, find your love for people around you. I think those are big things that you can do and you have time to do right now. I agree with Krabby. Read a book. I think that's something I've been crushing books. I've been crushing classes. I've been trying to, basically figure out any way to advance my career, because right now you have time. I think one thing that I would do as a player right now is I would go in and self-evaluate. I would figure out what is lacking in my game. Is your physicality right now? Like, you could do prison workouts, you can get as big or you can get in shape. You have time to be able to make that adjustment. You have time to figure out what it is that's going to make you better. And here's like the crazy part is, like, I know myself, like a little bit of a nutcase, but this is the time where you can practice the stupidest little things over and over and over. And you can create new habits, you can create new patterns, and you can truly elevate your game in the smallest capacities of, like, maybe your hip turn needs to be better. And you do that over and over and over in the mirror. By the time this pandemic's over, you got a better hip turn. Now you're a better hitter. If you need to get stronger, if you do 100 push-ups a day, all of a sudden you're jacked. Like, you're going to be a better baseball player. There's no substitute for strength. And I think, during this time, like, figure out what you need to do to make yourself a better human being, and then figure out how to love all the people around you and all the people that have made impacts in your life.
Thanks, Alex. Go ahead, Craig.
Yeah, definitely. What both these guys said was fantastic and spot on to what we need as a whole, as human beings. Speaking as for baseball players, I mean, kind of to piggyback what Alex said, like, you have the time, and if this time away from baseball, whether it's travel ball, high school, college, or even some professional guys, like, if this time has really woken you up to the fact that, I was just kind of going through the motions playing baseball, Like I was just doing it because I was good at it and I could do it. And I was just getting by. Like really self-evaluate in these times and identify things that you need to work on. And now you have the time to work on them. You know, the internet is so vast of drills and things that you can do within the own confines of your own house to make you better. So I think that if you as a baseball player don't come out of this just 1% better than when you went into it, then you really missed a golden opportunity that you just never going to have again, because we all have the time and we're just like, we're trying to figure out ways to pass it, but it's going to take that research, dedication, work to get better and to come out the other end just that much better. And there's just to me, there's no excuse right now if you're a baseball player during this time to not be better, be smarter in some kind of capacity. So there should be a lot of better baseball players out there when this is all said and done.
Awesome, guys. I'll kind of just give a little closing thought as well. Just listening to you guys talk about hitting and talk about the mental side. My thoughts on just kind of a little wrap up. Everybody is going through this at the same time as you are. Like you're not the only one suffering from the shutdown. Everybody else is as well. So you're essentially at a level playing field, in so to speak. Everyone's at home. Somebody may have better equipment than you, but that's really irrelevant. Everybody, like Alex and Calix and Craig just said, everybody has a lot of time right now. So if you're not taking advantage of that time and understanding that everyone is going through this situation, you don't need to sulk. You don't need to, be down on yourself that you're not out there playing. Everyone's going through it. Put in the work. Understand that we're going to get through this. We're going to get better. But like Craig was just saying, there's so many resources out there, and I feel like this is why we're doing this tonight. We've been thinking about it for the past couple of weeks of how can we provide value and content to our audience beyond just getting exposure through social media. What can we do to drop some knowledge for these guys that are up and coming that want to get to the next level? And so these weekly mastermind sessions where we can just come in and just talk and just get some questions from the audience, get some topics to sit on and marinate on, and just kind of just talk about it and get 4 different points of view. I mean, none of the answers were the same. They piggybacked off each other, but everybody has their own perspective. So I think with this valuable tool of video conferencing and being able to stream it live into different platforms, I think we have unlimited potential in the amount of people that we can reach. And so being able to be on a live platform, be on a video conference platform, and have guys that are at the major league level coaching, guys that are at the minor league level coaching, that are just entrenched in the game of baseball at the highest level, I think this is a really valuable tool. And so Alex and Calix, super thankful that you guys are joining us. Craig and I, putting in a lot of time and talking about how we can, further the knowledge drop and further the resources that, that we have through Prospect Dugout and just through our life and our experiences. So, we really appreciate the time that you've taken out of your evening to sit and share some knowledge. So thank you guys so much. Everybody,
appreciate it, guys. Thanks, guys.
Thanks
for
guys.
having
I
us.
had a lot of fun.
Everybody that tuned in, make sure to tune in again next Sunday at 8:00 Eastern. Until next time, see you guys later.